Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Star Wars. Star Wars hires man-hating director to ruin the franchise. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Okay, I use the term man-hating deliberately because if you're conservative, if you're normal, you look at anyone who says things like, men need to be taught a lesson. Men need to listen to women. Men need to know what they're doing is wrong. Whoever they are, not this guy, not that man, just men in general need to stop what they're doing, stop destroying women's lives, and turn around and just obey a specific social justice feminist agenda. Okay, so either you agree with that and then you'll probably love this movie, which will be a terrible movie, or you don't agree with that and realize like, no, people are individuals. I don't need to be part of some sort of gigantic communist agenda. If you don't want to be part of a big communist agenda, then you can go with the man-hating definition, and that's where I'm at. From Variety, Daisy Ridley's new Star Wars director says it's about time we had a female filmmaker come forward to shape the galaxy far, far and away. Well, that's just kind of an offhanded statement, but yes, Disney went out and they found a director who would be able to come onto the Star Wars brand and make the most possible feminist version of Star Wars you could ever make. In fact, it would be such a feminist version of Star Wars. In fact, it would be unrecognizable as having anything to do with Star Wars. This is all about trying to figure out a way to justify Rey as a Star Wars character, in addition to making sure that they don't have any male characters that do get a relatable, empowering story. Disney does not want to have any such characters. Not in Star Wars, not in Marvel, not anywhere in the company if they can possibly avoid it. So who is this person making this movie? Well, we'll get into that in a second. From Newsweek, Star Wars director's comments about men sparks calls to boycott. She made some really inappropriate statements, and the way I characterize them is not nearly as bad as it actually was. From the Daily Mail, this movie will be Disney's biggest flop yet. Star Wars fans say female-led next installment is destined to fail after 2015 comments from feminist directors saying her goal is to, quote, make men uncomfortable. Now, when this director is saying she wants to make men uncomfortable, it's important to look a little bit about her background and the work she's done. Here's the director's background, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's biography. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is a Pakistani-Canadian journalist, filmmaker, and activist. She is known for her work on documentaries that focus on human rights and social justice issues in Pakistan. Life in Pakistan for women, for men, it's not like it is in the United States or other Western countries. There is real and genuine oppression between the sexes in that part of the world. It's been that way, and there are a lot of stories that she can tell about it from her firsthand experience having lived there. That's got nothing to do with the Star Wars brand and is not appropriate for the Star Wars brand. Yes, there is oppression in the Star Wars brand. There's an evil empire. There's a rebellion. None of that metaphor relates to any of the stories this director could possibly be telling. She did win 2 Academy Awards for Best Documentary Short Subject, but let's look at what these stories actually were. In 2012, Obaid-Chinoy won her first Academy Award for Best Documentary Short Subject for Saving Face. The film tells the story of a Pakistani woman who was disfigured by acid thrown in her face by her husband. That does happen in those cultures. Not in the United States, not in the American culture, or what they like to call the patriarchy, but yes, in the culture she comes from, unfortunately, that does happen. That film's success helped to raise awareness of the issue of acid violence in Pakistan. In 2015, Obaid-Chinoy won her second Academy Award for Best Documentary Short Subject for A Girl in the River, The Price of Forgiveness. The film tells the story of a 14-year-old girl who was shot in the head by her father for eloping with her boyfriend. Also, that is something that actually does happen in their culture. Not in the United States, not in the patriarchy, but in the culture she comes from, unfortunately, yes, it does happen. The film's success helped to change the law in Pakistan so that girls who are victims of honor killings can now be granted pardons. I had to go and double check and see, did I even just read that sentence right? Can I not just read? Let me read that sentence again. The film's success helped to change the law in Pakistan so that girls who are victims of honor killings can be granted pardons. The victims are they're talking about giving pardons to the victims of honor killings. People getting killed for doing things that their male superiors in their culture believe dishonor their family. They're giving pardons to the victims, not the people necessarily doing the killings. Is that legal in that country? I'm going to tell you honestly, I don't know. That culture is not the American culture. It's not something that has anything to do with the world of Star Wars, with America, with the West, with the United States. Completely unrelated to us. If she's been able to try to get laws changed, to try to get awareness of terrible things that are happening in Pakistan and in other cultures that have similar beliefs where people are killed for eloping with a boyfriend, that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And if she did good work and it was recognized, she deserves whatever awards she got. But that doesn't mean you should put her on a blockbuster movie when you're trying to save the Star Wars franchise. They haven't been able to do a Star Wars movie for years because they got very far away from what the brand was all about. Rey is not a victim of oppression in the United States culture or in world culture. No one is throwing acid on Rey. No one is trying to honor kill Rey. Rey is not someone that needs protection from the patriarchy. The only purpose of putting this director on this film is to try to justify the character of Rey, try to create some sympathy and empathy with Rey, legitimize the character in some way. I would have had this woman come in and if Rey was a minor character in a movie, tell a small story about Rey to try to at least make Rey a human being. Interesting. You can make Rey a victim of something that helps people to feel bad for the character and want to see the character succeed. But to take an entire movie and give this to this director, who, like Nia DaCosta, has never actually done a big project before, is a massive mistake and will absolutely damage, ruin, and weaken the value of the Star Wars franchise. What toys are you going to sell based on this movie? What licensing are you going to be able to do based on this movie? They've destroyed all the momentum for the Star Wars brand. So what story is this woman going to come in and tell, making Rey a victim who somehow overcomes her oppressors, that's going to possibly make this a success or anything anyone could even be positive about? She may get some award, but the story that she tells for Rey is not even going to resemble anything that's happened in continuity with Rey before. And that brings me to my thought that Disney is really not sure what to do with their branded films anymore. They've lost a lot of the people who were interested in Star Wars as a brand, who were interested in Star Wars continuity. Marvel as a brand, Marvel's continuity. So now they're going to take a single character who has appeared before. She's going to need a new background and a new history. She's not going to fall into this. Every story this director tells is someone who's immersed in this oppressive culture. So we would need to see a history of oppression that we haven't really seen before with the character Rey to make any sense for this director to even be telling a story about that character. So we're going to see changes in Rey's background. But in addition, how is this a Star Wars story? How is this going to involve the Empire? How is this going to involve the Jedi? How is this going to be relevant to anything that people expect to see when they go and see a Star Wars film? So Disney is stuck now doing what they did with Marvel. You make a movie with characters that tells a story about characters that no one cares about, put the Marvel brand on it, promote it as a Marvel movie, and say, well, look, it's part of the Marvel world. Just go watch it. Buy some merchandise. And of course, none of that works. There are some people that did like that movie, The Marvels, for example. I've seen comments on Twitter. There are a few people that sincerely did like it. When I mean a few, I mean like 1% at most of the number of people that were excited about Avengers and other successful Marvel movies. So they'll go on and they'll create a movie. They'll tell you it's part of a filmed universe, but really, the story is not part of a film universe. There is no real continuity. You don't even have continuity of expected experience, that when you go and you watch a Marvel movie or you watch a Star Wars movie, that you get to see the elements in it that you would expect to see. Sure, Rey might have a lightsaber in the movie. The lightsaber is a small part of Star Wars. It's not Star Wars. Here's what people think of this new disaster from Disney. Star Wars fans and normal people have jumped on comments by the director of a new female-led film in the franchise, leading them to believe it will be another woke flop from Disney. There is zero chance this will not be woke, and there's zero chance it will not be a flop. I think that the work that this woman has done in the past, I haven't seen the films. I do believe it helped cause change and some additional respect for women in her country. That's great, but that doesn't mean you're appropriate for a multi-billion-dollar branded franchise, especially not to tell a story about a character that no one cares about. Two-time Oscar winner, and we heard what those Oscars were about. Those were about these short documentaries about women being abused because of cultural oppression in Pakistan. They're still Oscars, but they weren't Oscars because she made some big budget mainstream project. She did declare, though, that it's about time a woman shaped a Star Wars film, and she's set to become the first woman and the first person of color to direct a feature film for the franchise. The upcoming film Star Wars New Jedi Order is set after the most recent Star Wars sequel, 2019's The Rise of Skywalker, and will be centered on Daisy Ridley's character Rey. However, many have unearthed comments made on a panel the director did with Meryl Streep and Jon Stewart that has provoked outrage over Disney prioritizing politics over good filmmaking. Here's what she said, quote, "I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable," she said during the panel, which she participated in after winning an Oscar for a documentary about acid attacks against Pakistani women. Again, it's very hard to relate and even understand anything about that because we don't have that in American culture. Quote, "It's important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable. And it should make you uncomfortable," she added. In addition to her saying it's about time for a female-led Star Wars film. Quote, "Here's the feminist director of the next Star Wars film saying her goal is to make men uncomfortable," wrote commentator Matt Walsh. "This movie is destined to be Disney's biggest flop yet." Conservative pundit Ben Shapiro aimed his ire at much scrutinized Lucasfilm CEO Kathleen Kennedy, calling her legitimately the worst entertainment executive of his lifetime. The truth is, Kathleen Kennedy is not the worst. The worst would be Bob Iger. Look at what he's done to those franchises. Another Twitter user added, as South Park recently parodied, fans worry that Disney and Lucasfilm boss Kathleen Kennedy are more concerned with woke agendas than good stories. In one viral clip from an October South Park special, Eric Cartman is seen speaking to a therapist about how he believes woke casting is leading to his own friends being replaced by more diverse versions of themselves in his nightmares before ranting about Kennedy. Quote, "I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?" But then Kenny is like, "It's not our fault, it's cause of Kathleen Kennedy." But then Kathleen Kennedy is just like, "F it, make it more lame." Disney really has a problem with their business because they knew that these quotes were out there. They know what this director's background is. And telling stories about things she has personal experience with because she did grow up in Pakistan, where women are treated so terribly, killed in an honor killing, someone's throwing acid on the face of a woman, or who even knows what reason. Those are bad things. But if she's never tackled a major movie before, exactly how is she going to relate her cultural experience to mainstream American culture? How is she going to help to tell a relevant story for a brand with a history like Star Wars has? How is it going to be on brand for Star Wars? Why are they even bothering to continue with the Rey character? And if they're going to have her out there in interviews talking about what her plans are and having a female run the Star Wars franchise, hey, that's fine. But put out some press and put out some story that makes it look like it's not as bad as it probably will be. Disney has just had one failure after another, one destruction of iconic brands, one after another. They're facing a hostile takeover from angry investors. They had to reschedule Snow White because of all the negative feedback to their rebooting of Snow White, and now they put this out. Something has to change at Disney because this is just a waste of another iconic franchise. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.